All right, what's up, guys? I'm here to make a quick video and try to keep this short without repeating myself. And I'm here to talk about elite overproduction and what I like to call systemic narcissism. This is sort of like when you see narcissism on a really large scale, particularly when like entire groups are doing this shit. So, elite overproduction is essentially when you have too many people that are qualified for a small role, in which there just aren't enough people fit for the role. And I typically break this down into the gatekeeping. So, for the in aspects to gatekeeping, you essentially have three roles in any given system. That system being the dominant role, the high potential role, and the low potential role. Now, dominant, that simply means that you are already in the position, that you are incumbent, you have the power, and you are calling the shots. High potential means that you pretty much have what it takes. Like, you are high IQ, you're physically fit, you are capable and you have aptitude. And then low potential just means you don't really got it, dude. Like, it's not really showing. And so what happens when you have elite overproduction is this is a pattern that happens where those in places of dominance, or those that are in positions of dominance, will typically try to shut out or to gatekeep. They will intentionally try to make barriers to entry, and you see this a lot with politics and business. I actually had a small business lot not too long ago, and I remember in 2021, as actually 2022, I started to experience a lot of things where I had a small business started in 2018, to where it was becoming more and more difficult to operate things that I've been doing already for years on end. So, something as simple as billing platforms, exchange platforms, different platforms that I was using, and different equipment that I was using, to where if I had to buy supplies or whatever, all of a sudden there were these new regulations and mandates and requirements, to where, like, it was all of a sudden, these platforms that I'd been using, they didn't ask for my ID, never asked for documentation, never asked for, really much of anything. And then all of a sudden, they're becoming overly complex. They're, requiring documentation and ID for a lot of stuff, to where when I uploaded it, it was not accepting it. And I actually noticed this little pattern with a lot of the crypto platforms that I was running. The crypto platforms that I was using would oftentimes have periods where it became more and more difficult to pull out cash because it wouldn't let me log in. Like, it would all of a sudden start requiring me to upload ID, which I already did, like 20 times. It was starting to ask for information, and then there would always be something wrong with, like, the server, or there'd be a server error, or there'd be a network error. And I noticed that this always happened to be times right before major crashes. And it wasn't like seconds before, but it was usually about a couple days before the major crashes. All of a sudden, it's more difficult to pull out money. And, it's not like I was insider trading or anything. I just needed to convert that to US dollars to do whatever I had to do at the time. So, back on to the topic of elite overproduction and systemic narcissism. You also see this in a lot of social roles, right? In a lot of social or dating contexts, where, because I remember in the 2010s, there was a lot of biotech firms, and biohacking was actually a really big thing. These biotech firms, they're, finding ways to literally make stuff like plastic surgery, steroids, peptides, even things like skincare. and the online sales boom, to where like the average person could be able to afford supplements, peptides, steroids. Plastic surgery was becoming a lot more accessible, stuff like that. You start to see a social backlash, particularly those that were in incumbent positions, or positions where they had a lot to lose, right? So you saw this with this sort of demonization, where it was seen as shallow, fake. They use the term incel a lot for like, dude, improving the way you look is, it's not bad. It's good. It's good. It's what it is. But you saw a lot of gatekeeping, and there was this forum that I went on quite a few times. It was just like I'm just going there to bullshit and whatever. And it was for a game that I played. I'm trying to give out too much information because I don't want to be all personal with you guys. Is for a online game that I played, and I found this forum, and they were talking about looks maxing, and there were these people that brought up this idea that, like, if you weren't 35, or if you weren't a certain age, you did not, and you weren't like already super good looking, you didn't have the right, or you haven't earned the honors of doing this stuff. It's super fucking stupid. But what I've noticed is that these behaviors are sort of the behaviors of jealous narcissists. That's what I've noticed, right? It's like these behaviors are so in line with people that I've known personally, and people that um people that I've known personally, that like they knew personally, that a lot of these behaviors are indicative of fear and envy. It's like, are these people jealous, or is it whatever? And I think this counter reaction to elite overproduction is, it's almost sort of intuitive. It's kind of like something that's built in. And I say this because these things are almost like knee jerk, to where people in positions of dominance sort of have this subconscious need. It's almost kind of like, it's just almost instinctive to try to suppress people that are have the potential, and that have clearly, they're showing aptitude. I'm not saying that they're the next big thing, but these people, they have potential, and they have aptitude, and they have the mental faculties, and they have the resources along with that, or at least they know how to get the resources to get into dominant positions. Now, when I say dominant, I don't necessarily mean that these people are intentionally trying to like overthrow or sort of remove power from the people in positions of power. And when I say power, this can be power in so many different ways. This could be social power, um, socioeconomic, financial, political power, any kind of power. I've seen this repetitive theme within American society, within like modern society. You're seeing more and more gatekeeping. You especially notice it online, but you also notice it in real life, and you also notice it particularly with the way it's done in such a subtle nature. That to me, that just, there's so much crossover with like jealousy and narcissism, or I should say envy and narcissism. The way when because I've known people that were like jealous or envious narcissists, and they do things in a way that's like difficult to articulate, almost intentionally. And I see this like done on such a large like societal, it's more than an industrial scale, it's a systemic scale. of how that's happening. And so that's just something that, I guess that's kind of take away this video. And yeah, I think that'll be about it.